Welcome, everyone. This is Gretchen Rosenberg with Kentwood Real Estate, and I am here today talking with Sarah Tyler. She's a broker in our Northern Properties office out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Sarah grew up actually in Southern Colorado before moving to Northern Colorado. She did a brief stint out of state in college at Nebraska, and then came back and finished her bachelor's degree in Fort Collins. Sarah is someone I've really looked forward to talking to today because I wanted to find out how she's balancing this crazy work, life, family, small children, COVID, selling real estate situation, and also because Sarah has built and grown two businesses, a business that is not real estate and now her real estate business. So she's got a lot of great insight. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. And I definitely am enduring the COVID pandemic parenting / working situation.
Yeah, it's been really difficult for so many working families and working parents and working moms during COVID. And I'm curious to know what that's taught you. You and I have chatted offline and you've talked about being organized and being prepared. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think that you just, as a working parent in general, you have to be organized. You have to have the people that help you. You definitely have to have a schedule for your life a little bit, which real estate only allows for so much of that. But COVID adds a whole nother element because now we're doing homeschool. We're doing schooling at home. We're trying to figure out, I have an 8-year-old daughter named Maggie and then a 3-year-old son named Ian. So he actually is at a daycare / school, which we were lucky that they have not had to do a shutdown. So that helps a little bit because homeschooling with a 3-year-old running around is not always ideal. But then just making sure that I have help when I'm working. So I have a couple of sitters that have been able to help with the school aspect from home and just kind of being there when I have to run to do a showing. And the nice thing is our market in real estate hasn't actually slowed down, but everything else has changed. So just staying organized with everything has really helped me plan as much as I can. And then the other thing that's really helped is my clients have more flexibility to do things during the day, which also creates more time for life.
Well, that's an interesting comment because, as you alluded to earlier, real estate is such a busy, fluid, kind of drop everything and run type of business. And especially when you're in a market like we're in right now in Colorado, which is, you've got to get out, see a new listing, write the offer within 30 or 45 minutes of it coming on the market for you to even be competitive with your buyers. And so how are you organizing and arranging? You say you need to be organized. You've got this stable of people that are helping you. Do you have people that you have agreements with that say, yes, I can come over on short notice?
Yes, I have a couple of girls that it's like, hey, if you need me short notice, shoot me a text, see if I can do it. And another thing that's been helpful is most of the time my husband, John, has been working from home. So in a pinch, I say, hey, I've got to be somewhere in a half hour or an hour. Can you rearrange your work schedule and work later into the night and take over these couple of hours? And then I do have kind of typical school hours. I have a girl 4 days a week that is at the house during those hours so that I can get all my office stuff done. And I try to schedule showings during that time when they're not, or client meetings, getting listings prepped, talking to new buyers. I try to do that during kind of that 8 to 3:30 window where I have someone there with her to help with school throughout that time frame as well. And then whenever it's fast and quick and in a pinch, I'm either texting and trying to find that person that can jump over really quick or to take over and then he'll work later. So we've done a lot of kind of shifting. You're on now, I'm on now. And so I think you just kind of adjust. I think all of us as working parents are having to do that and adapt to all of those.
Right. I was a single mom and got into real estate when my son was about 2.5 years old. And I remember there was no pandemic back then because he's almost 26 now. But I used to take him on showings sometimes, and my sister used to tease me that my son's earliest childhood memories were going to be sitting in vacant houses holding them open. And he's actually now working on his real estate license, so I think it's embedded in his DNA. But you just have to do what you can. Obviously, you can't take young children on an entire day's worth of showings, but that's not really how it is right now. It's kind of drop everything, run, go see a house, or so much of what you're getting done to get your listings prepped, you can do online now. You can have meetings on Teams and Zoom with clients. Has the technology impacted your ability to be more flexible and organized?
Yes, definitely. And we're working with a lot more out-of-state buyers right now moving to the area. I'm sure you saw Fort Collins is now #1 place to live from a couple different sources. And so we're having a lot of people relocating here. So technology has been great, whether it's just face-to-face interaction for your first meeting with them because they're not local, or they are, and we just prefer it that way. And then also we've been doing a lot of FaceTime showings too, so sometimes it is gives you the ability to go to these houses and FaceTime them through to kind of do a first run, and then if they love it, then they come. And the other thing with COVID is you can't throw your kids in the car and take them with you, because I have definitely done that pre-COVID.
Actually,
I definitely have done that. And so it's like, yes, that has always been kind of your backup plan, right? And now it's like, well, kids really aren't allowed in the houses. And so you can't even do that in a pinch hit, because when COVID first happened, I had a lot of people under contract, and there were times when I didn't have my systems in order. I wasn't able to plan yet because nobody knew what this environment looked like yet. And so those times were really hard, because in your mind you're like, oh, just take them with me. They'll just come with me, it'll be fine. And then you realize, oh no, we can't take kids in the house or extra people. And so it definitely is a different change.
right. That's so true. I mean, here I am talking about like it was 24 years ago, and it's not. This is such a different
Well, and even
time.
a year ago, that was
Yeah.
possible, so it's
Yeah.
definitely different.
Yeah. So what was the genesis, Sarah, of you getting into real estate? You had your own business. You were the owner of a salon, a very successful salon, and then you decided to leave the hair and salon and spa business and get into real estate. How did that come about? What drove that decision?
It had always been something that I knew I wanted to pursue, but in my mind, it was always something that like later in life I would do. It would be kind of a second career or a retirement career kind of thing. And one day I was just kind of mentioning it, and with being in the salon and spa business, I owned my own salon and spa, but then I also still had my own clientele. And so at some point people can get allergies or burn out, or just it's not a career that you always can do forever. And so my husband just said, you talk about it enough, just do it. So it was definitely John who said, do the school. If you do the school and you don't like it, well, we lost a little bit of money on the schooling and you never do it again. But if you love it, then you have that as a backup plan for down the road. And then I got my license, and I found my first brokerage. And literally before I signed my agreement with my brokerage, I had actually a girl who worked with me in my salon named Ashton. Her and her husband called me and said, hey, are you ready to go yet? Because we want to use you. And then in the end, I actually competed against their old broker, which was one of the heaviest hitters in town. She definitely is still known today as one of the biggest realtors with a large clientele. And I competed against her, and I remember Ashton's husband, Ben, he said to me after we met, because I went over there, I brought him a bottle of wine and said, you guys just relax. I'll kind of show you what the comps are, and I'll go through my listing presentation. And I totally understand, I'm brand new. Default, you're going to go with your old realtor. She has experience. And in the end, he called me after that we met, and he said, I am so excited to work with you. I just felt a little stressed to sell the house before, and then we met with you, and you just made it sound so fun, and we're so excited to work with you. And so literally right the day that I signed my contract with my old brokerage, I had my first client, and then that year just went really well. And it turned from being kind of my backup plan to being my primary plan. And since then, I've obviously stopped doing hair and have sold my salon and spa to one of my stylists who has been a friend of mine for 13 years. So it was
That's
a
a
good
win.
transition.
That's great. And you're doing so well. I mean, you're one of our top brokers too. So we're thrilled to have you. What interesting background from growing up did you bring to your life, or do you bring to your business practice? Anything?
You know, maybe family, the family oriented aspect of it. I think that real estate, one of the reasons I liked the idea of getting into real estate originally was to be able to balance my family and my career, but then also work with other families, whether that means, I just worked with a young girl who she purchased her first home and she has a dog who's the love of her life, or if it's working with people who are having little kids and dealing with homeschool and trying to find new spaces for dad to work from home, mom to work from home, and the kids to do school from home. So kind of encompassing just everybody being a family unit, or for whatever that family looks like, to helping them find their perfect space and what that feels for them. And I think I just really had a good family growing up. I love my husband and my kids now are definitely my priority. So it's just being able to help other people find that space that really fits for them, I think would probably be the biggest piece.
And family's always been a theme since I've known you, which is now 2 years, or almost 2 years. Seems like it's kind of a through line in your life, that you joined Kentwood because you felt like it was a family. You have a very strong family. You're a very committed mother, and you also work with a lot of families. So that's an interesting answer, and it makes sense to me. In the last 5 years, what new belief or behavior or new habit has most impacted or changed your life?
I think probably, not to be redundant, but probably being organized. When I first started out in the business, I think I got into it really quickly and started out with clients really quickly, and I didn't have all my systems in place. And so over the last 5 years, I've really tried to work hard to have my systems in place to make life easier. Joining Kentwood is a huge aspect of that, because we have our transaction coordinators and marketing coordinators that just do so much for us to make it to where we can be more organized with our transactions and our marketing and everything that we do. So I think definitely over the last 5 years, getting my systems in place and just making sure that I'm organized so that I can give my clients the best experience that they can have without feeling stressed in any way.
And we do try to do that. So be your partner in helping you have tools and systems that I used to say to people, you go out and kill the meat and bring it back, and we'll help you cook it up and take care of it.
Exactly.
Dress it. So what purchase of $500 or less-ish has recently positively impacted your life?
This one I felt like was just a hard question, and I had no idea what my answer would be. And then I thought about it more, and because of my family, because of having two little kids, my answer would definitely be Legos. I have had a lot of time helping build Legos, but just letting them do it. They both love Legos, and so it's something I can give them a new little set, and they sit there and play with it and build it. And then once it's built, they use the little figures and create things, and they'll play together with each other. So Legos have saved my life since COVID, and just made it to where I can work from home, I can help my clients and keep my kids happy all at the same time.
Yeah, and Legos can be more than $500. Some of those sets are
Oh,
expensive.
yes, luckily my kids are still young enough that they like the little sets, and they're not quite to the point where we're doing these huge battleships that do cost a lot of money.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
remarkable though. I still actually have Lego things that Joe put together when he was a kid sitting in my basement.
Well, they're so cool once you're done with them too, that it's like now when I was a kid, it was like Legos were your yellow bucket with all your little pieces, and you just built whatever you could build with these square little blocks, right? And now it's like you have all these amazing things that are almost like art. And so it's hard to throw them away.
Yeah. Totally is. I have a helicopter, a Lego helicopter.
There you go.
What is your favorite quote or saying? Do you have any kind of quote or saying that motivates you or that you live by or drives you?
I don't know that I have a quote that just really, I don't know that I have a specific quote, but I definitely feel like family, like you were saying, family in every aspect of your life, having balance in every aspect of your life is really how I try to focus and put those priorities first, whether it's my work family or my home family or just your community. So I think just putting people first is probably the closest thing to a quote that I have that I would live by.
So breathe and think about others. That's your quote.
Yes,
Said
exactly.
Sarah Tyler. Have you ever had a failure that set you up later for success?
I think in everything we do, there's a little bit of failure, right? So I think being in a client driven field and my past career was also client driven, I think that those little failures that you feel are more when you think that maybe you have this great relationship and you think that you're going to be working together and then they maybe choose another salon to go to because it's closer to their home or their daughter got into the business or they have their best friend as a realtor, and so even though you're really close with them and they love you, they choose somebody else. So I think anytime you have someone going in a different direction when you feel really close to them feels like a failure. But those are the times that I really focus on, what could I have done better just to help them succeed? And I am of the mindset in this business that there are enough clients for every realtor out there. So I try not to feel like there's any kind of this competition, and I try to just make sure that I'm helping everybody, even if they're working with someone else. So I've really tried to make those little things throughout both of my careers, make it to where no matter whether they're my client or somebody else's, I'm helping them achieve that goal.
Yeah, no friendship or relationship is worth losing over real estate.
Right,
That's a
exactly.
good perspective to keep because sometimes they choose others and it hurts your heart.
Yeah.
But I don't look at that as a failure, just as a choice. So I think that's a good way for you to think about it too. What's one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It could be an investment of money, it could be time, it could be an investment of energy.
You know, I think it's the time investment with my family, probably. I feel like when I am happiest is with my family, and the happier I am in my personal life, the better I can be in my professional life. So I think time investment is a big thing for little kids. Sometimes you get into that, like the grind of your daily life, and I've got to go do this and this and that, and you can just get in this stuck in this situation where maybe when you're at home, you're just, here's your food and let's do homework and let's get this and that done. And I've really learned over the last few years to kind of slow down and make sure that my time at home is quality time. And if my house is a little messy, that's okay. And if, the laundry is piling up, but the kids want to play a game, or we're outside people, so we're outside all the time. So if my little one wants to go jump on the trampoline for 20 minutes and really I need to cook dinner and clean the house, I think that really refocusing and realizing that quality time is more important for my family and for me, so that I can be happy. And that way, when I go to work or when you are cooking dinner and doing those things, you are still at a happy place because you've invested that quality time with the people that you love.
Yes, and you can create more money. You've done that. You've built two businesses, but you can't create more time, and your children just grow up and leave so fast that the more you can invest in that time with them now and with your husband so that you maintain that relationship, because that's your primary relationship for your life, that's a great investment for your future and their futures and in your well-being too. In our profession, we do hear bad recommendations sometimes. What are some bad recommendations you've heard given out to either clients or other brokers?
The one that comes to my mind, to the top of my mind immediately, is I work with a lot of people who do new construction homes. And there are a lot of realtors out there that tell their clients or just people, friends and family say, oh, well, you have a 1-year warranty. And so you don't really need to do an inspection up front because you can just catch all that stuff as you go. And that is the biggest thing that I hear with new construction. And I try to educate people by saying, you know what, they just built a house from the ground up and they're bound to miss something. So yes, it's brand new, but something didn't get done right. It's just, you don't know what it is. And if that's construction debris down in the sewer line and you don't know about it until your basement floods, and then you wish you would have done an inspection, just do it up front. It's easier for the builder to get in the house when you're not living there, fix anything that they can find. Most of the time it's minor stuff, but definitely my biggest suggestion to people with new construction is do a home inspection prior to close. And also include a sewer scope with that because new construction has a lot of sewer issues as well as old homes. And so if you don't see that ahead of time, everything that you store in your basement can be destroyed by a sewer line backing up. So that is probably the biggest piece of advice that I hear all the time, that people say, oh, well, so-and-so said not to do an inspection because I have my warranty. And I stop them and kind of give them a few examples that I've had, and they're like, oh no, yeah, we're doing an inspection.
It's bad advice to not have an inspection on any property. And I'll give you some of my war stories. I had a sewer line not connected to the main on a brand new house. I had an attic that they had forgotten to spray in the insulation. And we were at the walkthrough the morning of closing, and brought a ladder and went up and looked in the attic, and there was no insulation. They'd forgotten to spray it in. And then the third one is the contractors had dropped a roof truss through the floor of the living room, punched a hole in the floor, and then just padded and carpeted over it. So we were at our walkthrough, our inspection, looked up from the basement. We were down in the basement, looked up at the ceiling of the basement, and we're like, why is there a hole in the floor we can see the carpet pad? And it turned out they had dropped a roof truss, poked a hole, and then just carpeted over it. Like someday someone's foot might have gone through that. But yes.
That's a big one. That's a huge one.
Yeah. So good idea to get an inspection, even on new construction. So you've got so much going on, Sarah. You've got your family, you've got your business, and your community that you're involved in. What have you become better at saying no to, or do you just say yes to everything?
I used to say yes to everything, and you can ask my husband and he will tell you he probably would think that I still do. But I have learned that there are a lot of things that you get invited to or that you feel like you should do that really you need to say no to. You have to kind of put a priority on what you really should be doing, what you shouldn't. So I really learned quick with my daughter when she first got into school. Every kid invites every kid in their class to a birthday party. And at first you're like, oh, well, but they invited us, so we need to go. And it's the way that they cultivate relationships. So she needs to be there no matter what, we'll figure it out. And, sometimes those things are things that you have to let go and say no to, and say, you know what, we just don't have the time for it, or it doesn't work that day. And so I am learning, and I'm still in the process of learning how to say no to things. And it's not necessarily just one specific thing, just maybe making sure that day and time really work for me and the family and my work and everything. So I'm still working on that one, but definitely learning to say no helps life in general, I think.
So last question then, unless there's something else we're going to kind of naturally just segue into, but when you get unfocused, when you feel overwhelmed, especially now, how do you bring yourself back? How do you refocus, kind of bring yourself back to center?
I think just taking a step back, and that's different every time, right? So sometimes it might be that I have a ton of clients and I'm just on the go all the time, and so I have to take a step back and maybe take a day where I'm just doing things for myself or being with my family, to kind of give myself that break to restart again. And then other times it's getting in the weeds with figuring out how to homeschool and figure out the kid situation with COVID and trying to get everything organized. And then more, it's coming into the office a little bit more and getting my processes back in line and calling my clients and checking in and kind of refocusing on that and that aspect. So I think that every time I lose focus or anyone loses focus, that reset has to look a little different depending on where that focus has dissipated from. So if it, if it's more career driven, maybe I need family time. If it's more, doing too much of the in the weeds type of things, it's getting refocused into business. And this time of year is so beautiful, just getting outside. I'm an outside person, so going on a bike ride sometimes just refocuses you and regenerates that drive, or just gives yourself that calm that you need to move forward. So I think it's different every time depending on what I'm losing out of my life.
Right. Yep. But just making sure you step back and figure out, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I've got to figure out what to do to get some focus back. So one more thing I just was going to ask you about. You're so busy with the family and with work, and you're so outdoorsy. You probably don't have a lot of time to read right now. I recall having youngsters and not doing as much reading as I do now, but are there any TV shows, any podcasts, any books that you want to like throw out there and tell us all about?
Man, I am a big Audible person, so I don't have a lot of time, but because we drive to showings and drive to kids stuff and, are doing all the things in life, I have become to love audible.com. And so I do a lot of audiobooks. I would tell you that most of my audiobooks are more for pleasure than for learning right now because it's so few and far between. So I do a lot of historical fiction books. The Outlander series is by far my favorite historical fiction series, but I love almost all historical fiction. I've been doing a lot of World War II focus books lately, it seems like, and I just read one that was all about the East and West Berlin and the Berlin Wall, which was really fun. So there is a little bit of history mixed into the fiction books, but I definitely lean towards pleasure reading right now because I am so busy with work and kids and everything. That's kind of my little hidden pleasure for sure.
Yeah. That's good. Well, Sarah, thank you. Is there anything you want to say to wrap this up?
I just appreciate being here and I love being at Kentwood. In the last 2 years, I feel like this experience, it's elevated my career so much being here. I love seeing our office growing and doing all these things. And then I just hope everyone out there that is trying to adapt to having little kids at home and still working and have COVID around, I hope that everybody's figuring out that we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace and do as much as we can with what we have, and everybody's version of that's going to look different. So we all just have to support each other and make sure that we're getting through this pandemic together.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a really great way to end this. That Sarah can help you if you want to buy or sell a house in Fort Collins, and she can relate to your situation if you need more room for your family. But also just stay safe, stay healthy, give yourself a break when you need it, and we're here for you. And Sarah, we love having you at Kentwood. Thank you so much for being a part of our team and being a part of our family. So everyone, this is Sarah Tyler at Kentwood Northern Properties. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And Sarah, thank you for playing along with me today.
Thanks, Gretchen.